Welcome, Scott, to my YouTube channel. I got introduced to Scott through an email. He just released an awesome documentary, and I wanted to bring him on my show, not only to talk about his documentary, but to get to know his story as a Jehovah's Witness. So, Scott, how did the Jehovah's Witnesses come into your life?
My grandparents in their retirement found a religion when they went in their retirement, started traveling, living in other states in when in their 50s back in the late 70s. And they met the witnesses that way. So then they started influencing their children, which are my parents' age, my dad. And my dad started studying. And for a few years, it was sort of like, what is this? Are we doing this or not as a family? And then they sort of made a decision. They're like, okay, kids, look at all these presents. This is the last time you're getting any presents on Christmas. And I don't know. It was an interesting, like, hard line because we had already done all the things, and we had no other really witnesses in our family at that time. So and we were in a completely different part of the country, on the other side of the country. So like all my family and all my upbringing from that before that up to that point, and even following that, were like all my upbringing, all the family and friends were non-witnesses, just my dad, and then that distant idea that I had grandparents who I never met who were in this weird new religion. So kind of a strange thing. My parents joined it when they were in their early 30s with kids.
Okay, so you had a upbringing where you were a witness at a very young age. What was that like for you?
I think my parents were just trying to keep things together, and they probably joined it for personal reasons to like have a safe place to raise their kids as more like a community decision. For me, it was they were not that good at it, so it wasn't like super hard line. There was some strange indoctrination aspects to it where like I mean we never really did religious stuff at home ever, even after that, even as they got into the religion. Apart from like go study your magazines before the church meeting, um, but you do it alone. We never did it as a family. But as far as that goes, like indoctrination sessions were a very stark contrast break from watching cartoons and playing with my brothers. um, Not great, very strange. But there was some nice things about like the community aspect of having people of all ages around all the time. And it's like when I left the religion later on, and we'll get to that, I missed old people, like in general, because there were so many around my whole life. And it felt like I was sort of being raised by the village in a sense, a couple hours a week that you're with the church members.
I totally understand. You also said that you didn't really do any religious stuff in the home, so there wasn't any family study that happened.
No, and the religion kind of made a big deal about making that a thing, or at least that's how I understood it. It was like, oh, we have to do something different. When I was a teenager, and our family didn't really do that. The most we ever did was like, okay, we're all going to sit around the table together and do our own personal private study, sitting at a table together during breakfast on a Sunday would be like as far as we ever got with family study.
Interesting. That's a that's a new take. And at what point then did you get baptized?
So yeah, I got baptized, and it was sort of reluctant, a little bit of pressure from my dad every 6 months throughout my teenage years, and eventually a few people that I knew were getting dunked in the pool at assemblies, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'll go through the questions. And some new Bethelites were appointed, former headquarter workers were appointed to our congregation as elders, and they were actually cool guys from New York. Um, and I did the questions with them, and no one in my family even knew I was doing that. So, but I was 17 when I got dunked, and my grandparents were like, I thought you should. It's so important. You should have told us. We would have taken pictures. We had no idea. I can't believe you got baptized. We didn't know. And then I kind of left religion like a year later, as a teenager, still after I got out of the house. So it was kind of poor timing. But still, I was a minor. Like, can you really make a lifelong decision at 17? Is still a question to be asked. Um, yeah,
So you got baptized at 17, left the organization at 18, still living under your parents' roof,
it was
and
actually
your
I left at
what?
19 after I was out, but yeah, not long after.
Okay. What was your family life like? Were your siblings witnesses, or did they get baptized, or did they go to the meetings?
I had the feeling, yeah, my siblings did get baptized. I had the feeling that they didn't really take the religion all that seriously. Like my brother always had like a huge collection of movies, and a lot of them are rated R. We never had a problem in our family with explicit lyrics and rap and heavy metal. Like all music was acceptable. My parents would even buy explicit lyric music for us, like totally contrast to the normal witness trend. Um, and gave us complete like it's a conscience matter speech. My dad gave me one time. He's like, I don't really care, just make good decisions. It's your life. I'm not going to judge your music or throw any of your stuff. Well, I know witnesses do that, but I'm not going to do that. And so it was like we had kind of a lighter, I had a lighter experience with the witnesses in that sense. Um, but yeah, my brother would skip meetings. Like my brother's like he hated giving talks. My dad skipped his own talks a lot of the time. So like it was sort of like I think I'm the only one who's actually taking like living forever and immortality seriously. Is this fantasy world that we're talking about all the time real? I was like very much skeptical, but like I was going auxiliary pioneering a couple times, like once a year or something up to that point. Even though I was like going to punk rock concerts and all my friends were not witnesses pretty much until like there was a couple in the next congregation over that also were musicians and I thought they were cool. So I hung out with them, but most of my friends were not witnesses. So I have this like middle road kind of experience, I guess you would say.
Yeah, so I'm really curious about your friends in the music world, the Jehovah's Witness friends. What was that like for you, and how did you find these friends?
I think because I had like kind of normal friends in high school, like most of my friends were Pentecostals and Lutherans and Catholics and atheists. And then I also met some people that were Jehovah's Witnesses, but my standards were really clear. That was like, I'm not going to hang out with people that take this religion seriously. I don't want to be friends with elders or ministerial servants or pioneers. Like I don't relate at all. So I was just focused on people that were doing things that I cared about because that's how I'd made my friends, like follow similar shared interests of snowboarding, skateboarding, playing guitar, playing music, going to see live music. And so I met all these other Jehovah's Witnesses in the neighboring county. My dad would take us to go play basketball or football or go to the Super Bowl parties, witness stuff. And he's like, hang out with them. You should make witness friends. And I was like, oh, there's like other people that don't want to be here. I'm gonna go see what their thing is. And they're like, yeah, I play drums, man. I don't like football. Or like I play guitar. Like I'm into heavy metal. And I'm like, oh my God, these are cool people. I didn't know that. And I became friends with them. And there was like 20 people in the next couple congregations over, like that. And then they all kind of left the religion within a couple of years of meeting them, except for like one or two um, who kind of yeah stuck with it, I guess, and married a pioneer or something. Um, but that kind of was like, how am I the last guy in this religion of all the people I've met in this religion and I've become friends with? Like, I'm the last Jehovah's Witness, and I'm like, I barely believe this stuff. But some part of me kept hanging on to like the fantasy of living forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you fade? Did you get disassociated, disfellowshipped?
I didn't. Yeah, I just walked away. I faded, according to the way the X community calls it. I just was like, I don't believe this. Oh my God, this is a weird book club, and I'm not coming back to the book club meetings anymore. I'm out. I mean, it's obviously more serious than that, but I was like, by signing the disassociation letter, that just gives them more power to control my family because they would report that back to my family. So I
Mhm.
didn't want to give them that power. And then there was a bit of a transition period of like 3 years where before my family started shunning. But usually the thing is you get kicked out, you get shunned, you disassociate by basically like unsubscribing from the book publishing company, and then your family cuts you off forever. And then if you walk away, there might be a chance, like a 1% chance that they won't shun you. And I think I successfully got the 1% chance, and it lasted for about 2, 3 years, where they were like, sometimes they would talk to me, but they'd almost always make it about the religion. But then it was a complete cutoff. And you know, I have talked to some of them, and it's like if I show up at their door, they'll talk to me, but it's very much like you're intruding, and I'm not supposed to talk to you. Goodbye forever, kind of emotional 10 to 40 minute situation.
Okay,
I've
so is
forced
that your
that a couple times.
parents? Okay. Is it your parents and your siblings or just your parents?
My parents and my four siblings, I have an older brother, younger brother, and two little sisters who are all like living far away and married or yeah, other states and countries. Um, and then my grandparents that are still alive on my dad's side, both of them, and like 98 and 97 or something, 99 and 97. They're still in it, kind of technically. I don't think they've gone to church since like 1997 or something, but they still consider themselves Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't even know that they have the internet at the global world headquarters, because the internet was still like banned by the religion. You're like, you're not supposed to use the internet. Social media didn't even exist yet. So like they didn't even get the social media ban. Like I don't think they've understand that it's a different religion now. They don't even know. They told me that they didn't even know that they have like a TV studio and that they make videos. Last time I talked to them like 6 years ago. And they're like, what do you mean the witnesses are making videos? They're not. And I was like, they're like a televangelism corporation now. And like all the people that write all the books and magazines are leaders of the televangelist TV show, and they're on TV. And they're like, no, that can't be true. I'm like, turn on the internet, try it. It's pretty cool. You missed out on web 1 and 2. Like we're in a new era, grandpa and grandma. It's kind of funny.
So, how long has it been since you've spoken to your siblings?
Um, my little brother, he communicates if I show up to Munich and I want to see his kid. So if I'm there so for a couple days or a week, then he'll like hang out with me a couple times. Um, so that happens every couple years once. Um, Other than that, it's zero. I haven't seen my little sisters in 12 years, and my older brother and in a little longer actually, because I went and met my baby sister before she got hitched, uh, um, randomly at her work 6 years ago when we made this movie. I was like, oh, I'm in the neighborhood. I might as well pop in and see if I can have a conversation this decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, speaking of the movie, would you like to talk about it? What got you into starting it?
So because of that whole story about being cut off and shunned and I didn't really expect it to happen because our family was not really taking it seriously. I almost think like me leaving pushed them to take it more seriously. But because they shunned, I was like living in that, the pain or the trauma from the cutoff and missing them. And like it's just, like if somebody dies, it's like impersonal. It sucks and you can mourn and grieve. But if somebody chooses every single day to not have you in their life, and then if you do get in touch with them, they're like, I love you, but I can't talk to you. It's like, okay, so they're coerced, but they are choosing to not have me in their life. They're making a conscious effort to do it and keep on doing it. That almost hurts in a more prolonged way. Like you can't, it's hard to grieve them if they're choosing to like do this act of emotional abuse. Um, and I was just like struggling with that for a long time. And I thought, you know what? That's what makes this a cult, is the undignified exit from it. And it is one of the many things that make a cult, but specifically this religion a cult. There are many aspects to that. But I wanted to tell that story, and I had been diving back after leaving the religion. I was like, well, what do I love to do? Like, what's my passion? Well, I want to get back into film, and I had done a lot of documentary work and video and audio editing stuff in high school, and then I went to college for it, and I worked at a TV station for a long time. And I love it. And so I was like, well, if this is the only life you get, like I'm gonna go all in on filmmaking because I absolutely love that. And then at some point I was like, well, now I'm gonna have the skills to tell stories. What story would I tell? And I was like, how do you tell the story of shunning? That's a tricky one. So it's so hard to like demonstrate that. But then the movie came about because I started making interviews on the topic with people called the Ex-Jehovah Coming Out series. And then because we made like 3 big interviews and made a big thing about it, and I got editor involved and we made it like a big splash, but it kind of didn't go anywhere. We're like, well, what if we crowdfund the series and try to get that out into the world, find the audience for that? Maybe there's ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or former witnesses that would want to watch something about that topic, because maybe there's a whole world out there of hundreds of thousands or millions of people from this one religion alone. That could be huge. And so we crowdfunded it, and we raised a bunch of money to make that series. And then we end up shooting a bunch of interviews. Like there's like 12 interviews right after that. But these 5 became this documentary where we're like, whoa, like that's way more powerful and bigger than the interview series. Let's make a movie, and then we'll go big with it. We'll take it to film festivals. We'll get it on streaming services. We'll go all the way. Um, and it's a big learning curve. But we finished the film, and it won an award and went to 11 film festivals. And now is our big release of Witness Underground. And it has 3 chapters, 3 things I wanted to say. I wanted to humanize the cult experience. I wanted to demonstrate shunning and the losses and the fallout of losing community and family. and I wanted to show an it gets better final, like you can have a great life after making that decision to cut off ties with a nefarious, dangerous, manipulative, abuse cult, doomsday cult. And it is a fundamentalist group. I'm throwing around a lot of negative charged words, but it's a dangerous group. And to decide to get away from that's it's a healing decision. It's a decision to make your life better. And if you decide to do that, whether they kick you out or you do it on your own, it's it's an act of it's successfully navigating mind control. And that's a very interesting self-selected group of human beings that are able to do that while living in it, swimming in that environment, to realize to get out and know what the consequences are, that those people are going to have, they're going to be coerced to treat you that way and abuse, to continue the abuse. And I'm amazed by the people who have left, and I wanted to celebrate what we've achieved. We're not just a group to be pitied because we are hurting from a loss of family and community. We've actually done something bigger than that. The people that are the real victims are the people that are trapped inside. And I wanted to make a film that was like, had this different worldview, because I've seen so many on the topic, and I don't really like the way that they present the ex-witness experience, or that they don't really know what they're showing or talking about usually, with especially the news-based ones. They're well-meaning, but I wanted to show something that's like, no, the most amazing thing started after the people got out of the religion, and then what did they do with their lives? Because I've met the most amazing people who've left this religion and other religions, and they've got a whole different trajectory, and they're untethered, and they just go for their like dreams a lot of times, or they go traveling, or they go, and I mean, you're a good example of that. Someone who got out and now you have a business and you're living in a couple different countries, and it's like it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I I love that you went deep into the shunning and especially the life after. And I have to agree with you, the news and all the documentaries, they do a great job of talking about the Jehovah's Witness story, but they don't talk about the amazing life that you can have outside of the organization. And
Yeah.
that's so important as an ex-witness, because we both know that when you were a witness, they told you that if you left the organization, you're going to be a prostitute, an addict, a homeless person. So just to really emphasize how great life can be outside of the organization is really important. And I love the fact that your documentary includes these 3 chapters. How long did it take to make this documentary, and what has the whole process been like for you guys, for your team?
Thank you. It was actually kind of, the process started, like I was saying, with the series and the intention to continue that series. And I did these 5 interviews with people that I knew well. I knew these musicians in the film, and they provided I did one interview, and then that particular person who became like the backbone of the film, Ryan Sutter, he founded the Nuclear Gopher music production group, and became a music community in the Witnesses. And then he was one of the first people to leave the faith during that, after like 17 years of running this music community for Witnesses, like a safe space for active witnesses to make music and art. And it spanned multiple states. I found out about it. I was in the orbit of that, and I went to that city, and I met a lot of those people, and I am living with some of them, and I lived there for years, and we partied a lot, and a lot of us left around the same time. Um, and so Ryan, who I'd never met until we made the movie, until we did the interview, he was like, "Oh, you need to get in touch with the guy who shot a lot of the videos that we made." I was like, "Oh, let me see your videos." He's like, "Oh, we have a whole archive. Let me just give you the whole archive of it was like 30, 40 videos made by like a community of people over a period of a decade or more." And he's like, "Oh, and we also have like 100 albums, 30 of which will be released publicly. And here's all of the content, and here's all the access to everything. It's all open source, open public photos, public albums, public downloadable." Like, I was like, "Oh my God, there's like 2 terabytes of amazing stuff to make it into." That makes it a documentary, because my interview series is just like a talking head. Like basically what we're doing right now is what I was kind of doing with like just nice cameras and lights in person. And that's not a documentary, that's an interview. And that's a different thing, or like a YouTube podcast. And I wanted to do a proper documentary, but like having the archive of the music and the film, and the access to all the people in that art scene who got out of the religion, that was amazing. And they went on to make like 16 more albums, and almost all of that music is about their processing of the trauma after leaving their religion, and then like becoming like having this up arc of like landing on the outside with critical thinking skills, with a clear worldview, demystifying dogma and faith and control. Like their songs are super powerful, and that was incredible. And but really, when it comes to shooting, I mean, it was I was in Minneapolis shooting with them, all planned in advance. I think it was 7 full days over a 10-day period where we shot everything, including all the live music. None of these people had played in a band together before. Even the drummer had never even heard the songs, but we like pulled it together. That's like this makeshift team um, to make it appear that like they're making music still, and they are just not together, but like they went and did covers of each other's songs for the film, and so all that came together in such a short time. I was like, this is amazing. Like that is a movie. We don't need to shoot anything else. We can, but we don't need to. And I gave it to an editor. So I thought I could like knock it out in like, I don't know, 8 months or a year. And then hiring an editor, when she gave me the first cut, was like a year later. And it was like a side project for Sean Walmsley, this woman I'd met. And then her and I worked for a year back and forth. Like every week she'd give me the cut and I would cut some pieces and work on the story. And then she would get it back and she would put her touch on it and work on different pieces and trade. It's like a very strange way to make a movie remotely before the pandemic, before we had to be remote. Um, we were already working remotely for a couple of years. And then the pandemic was kind of awesome because I was like, oh, there's no more distractions. There's nothing going on. I can just go from this desk to the other desk after work, like finish the movie. I did it all while having another job. And then we ran the film festival circuit. And it was awesome. But I really thought I could like get it out. And it would be like, I know how I'm going to make a movie in a year. And it's been, and I found this is normal, maybe even a bit fast, actually. 3 to 5 years is pretty typical to finish, go from start to finish or start to distribution. And we were actually wrapped and ready for distribution after 3 years, but it's been 2 years of trying to navigate the distribution world. It just brings us to like right now. We are distributing, and the Kickstarter campaign we have right now is our distribution launch and our first marketing push to find our crowd in the crowdfunding and just sharing the news. And thank you for having us on, because we're really just trying to find the people who we know will love this thing. If you're hearing about this, you're our core fan base right now. Please share the video or the news about it, because that's the main goal of the Kickstarter. But we're also raising money to do marketing, PR, and the distribution costs some money, and like quality control to make the files that go on streaming services like Tubi and Netflix and Amazon and Apple and everything.
Amazing. So if somebody is like, how do I see this? Kickstarter is the way, and I'm gonna put the link to see the video in the description box for people that are interested in watching it. And is
Yeah, it's
there any other?
witnessunderground.com. And that's where the Kickstarter is. It redirects to the Kickstarter right now. We're at
Got it. Okay, perfect.
66%. And we have 7 more days to go. Next Friday. So this is Friday. Friday, November 17th is the last day. And but the Kickstarter, the witnessunderground.com URL is the place where everything about the film is, and the series and the podcast. There's a lot to this, and like all the interviews we've done, like 45 interviews, it all lives there after the campaign.
Incredible. Thank you,
Yeah,
Scott, for
thanks.
sharing. I think this is going to be some valuable resources for a lot of people to tune in and to watch. Is there anything that you feel like you wanted to add to this interview?
This is a big change to the ex-Jehovah's Witness kind of content that's out there. I saw something that I thought was maybe a little bit unhealthy. Like a lot of people get stuck in, well, what is the religion saying? What they're hypocrites. Let's look at their text and compare it to some other text, and all that's fine and useful, and I think it's valuable. And if you just left the religion, that stuff is essential. Like go finish the process of realizing what this organization is, but then you need to like turn your focus away from the past and look to your present moment, and then like get excited about your future and go like have an awesome future, and you can at any age. And I wanted to demonstrate a group of people that did that and show a path. And maybe art and creativity is a way to find your own voice, whether you're in that religion, just left it, or you've been out a long time. Go make something that can help shorten the process or help you process the trauma and get back to a healthy place.
I love that. Thank you so much, Scott. Really, really appreciate that. Um, Thank you for coming on this channel. And again, I'm going to say that I think there's going to be so many great people or great opportunities to watch your documentary. And again, I'm going to put the description to how to access it. I can't even talk right now. I'm going to put the link to your Witness Underground in my description. And thank you again, Scott, for coming on my